Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well today and thank you so much for joining me for another video. So in Cricut Design Space this week, we've had some really awesome updates and some really exciting changes have been made to Cricut Design Space. So I thought I'd do a quick video just to go through what's different and what's new. So let's jump in and see what we can see. Here I am then on a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, and I've just got a couple of shapes on the screen just to show you what is going on with these new updates. The first thing that you're going to notice is different is a couple of the really useful commands that we use all the time. So if I just select both of these items, you can see at the top here, just above the layers panel, we used to have group, ungroup, duplicate and delete here, and the icons are still here, but they're a little bit different. They've taken away the wording that was underneath each one of these icons, and they've also made the group and ungroup into one icon. So at the moment, if I hover over here, it's going to come up and it's going to show me what this button will do. So it's going to group right now. So if I click on that, it's grouped together my oval and my circle. So what this button does now is if something is already grouped on the screen, it's going to show you that you can ungroup it, and if something isn't grouped, it's going to show you that you can group it, which is really useful. And it also shows you the keyboard shortcut as well on that little hover button, so you can see that to ungroup I need to press Shift, Command and G on my keyboard because I'm using a Mac. Then the next one along is duplicate. It's exactly the same as it used to be, so all you would do is click on that and you'll get a duplication of what you've got on your screen, which is perfect. And then if you go on to the next one, it's delete, so that will just delete that as well. So that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just made it a little bit more streamlined in that menu at the top. There is also plenty of space here for further icons to be added in the future, which is pretty good. The next thing I'm going to share with you that's changed is the layers panel. As you can see, it does look a little bit different here. So in the layers panel, there's a few differences that have been made. One of the main ones is that we can now rename our groups and our layers, which is really handy. So all you need to do is just double click on the name there and I can change that to whatever I want it to be. So that's useful. That's especially good if you are sharing your projects with people on Cricut Design Space and in the community. So that's really good. The other thing that you can do is now you can click on the edge of the layers panel and you can make it bigger, so you can drag it out. If the name of that particular layer was really, really long, like I'm just going to add a load of letters, we can have that in there as a really long name. If we pull it back though, and we've got a long name, it will just do a little bit of it and then the ... So it won't keep it or pull it down and wrap the text onto the next line for you. You can also name each layer. So I could change that to blue oval, which is really handy as well. Your icons for hide are still the same, so you can just click on that and hide and unhide. Another feature that's really quite handy now that the layers panel has changed is that we can actually hide and unhide our layers. So I've got this whole section here and I'm going to just group these together into pairs. Now that I've grouped them together, I've got two sections of grouping appeared on my layers panel on the right hand side. And if I just click on these little arrows here, I can collapse both of those down. So it now just says group. This is where the renaming really comes into its own, because I could rename that group and I'll know exactly what it is without having to have all of those layers showing on the screen, which is what it used to be like before. The one thing that is missing from the layers panel now is the operation type. So before we used to have a little note that said whether it was a basic cut or a print then cut, and I did used to find that to be quite useful. The only way now to see what type of operation that is performing is to look at the actual operation type at the top here. So it shows me that that is a basic cut and I can change it from here. I would have liked it if they'd have put like a little pair of scissors, the pencil or the printer icon on this side. Maybe that's something they're going to add in the future, because I think that'd be quite useful to have. For this next section then of the video, I'm going to explain to you what all the new functions in the new combine menu do. And I'm going to read out what Cricut say they do and then actually show you what they do on the screen. So if I just select these, and I'm just going to ungroup them to start with, because I want them all to be single items. And as you can see, when I've ungrouped that, it has gotten rid of that name that I'd put across that group there. So if I wanted to make a border for a card, for instance, if I was going to do it with these, and I'm placing all of my bits and bobs together like this, so I'm going to make a little pattern. Let's just arrange it so that it's nice and straight. Align it at the top, so that's nice and straight. Now if I just select everything, either by dragging over it or clicking on select all, I can see now there's a new menu that's appeared, and it's called the combine menu. So if I click on there, there's lots of different items that have appeared now, and these are all new things that we need to go through today. So the first one I'm going to show you is weld. Weld isn't a new feature, it's something we've always had in Cricut Design Space, and it is a permanent change. So if I click on weld right now, it's going to change all of my ovals and my circles to one colour, and then that is done and dusted. I can't change it. The weld result in my layers panel is 1. There's only one thing there. All my pieces are now one entity and cannot be moved, changed or anything. If I do want to undo that, I can only undo it if I do it instantly after I've done the weld. So I've just moved that around. So I'm going to have to press undo 2 or 3 times in order to get back to that unwelded state. So I had to press undo twice there. So that is what weld does, and obviously that's something that you should only really do if you're 100% certain that your project is finished and that you're happy with the layout of it. Now in the release notes for this particular update 7.20, they have included a new feature called Unite, and I'm going to show you how that works now. So if I select everything again, what they say Unite does is joins together 2 or more shapes to make a new shape, and it is reversible. So basically this is weld, but it's undoable weld, which is really great. So if you come down to combine here, underneath weld, you'll see it's got Unite. Let's tap on Unite with the mouse. So it looks exactly the same on the main body of the canvas, doesn't it? But it isn't quite the same. If you look in the layers panel now, we've got all of our ovals and circles have changed to pink because it's basically welded them in the same way that it would have if you'd have used weld. But the difference being we've also got a little top layer there called Unite, and that is showing us that underneath here we've still got all of those individual shapes, and it will still allow us to make changes. So if I decide actually I'd like the circles to be bigger, so I can just click on the circle in the layers panel. I can then come up the top here and I can change my size, or I can change it by dragging it. Let's do the same to the other circle so that it makes it a little bit different. Oops, that's not quite right. 6 we want. Okay, so that's done. You can see it's changed it. Now I can just select both of those layers. Again, I can come up to align and I can align them at the top. So now it works the same. So now they're aligned at the top and they're the same size, both of the circles. So now I've made a few changes to my shape, but actually I've changed my mind completely and I don't want it to be like that. So I need to unweld what I've done. So I'm going to ununite, and it's really easy to do. So if you just select on that again, you'll see each layer is selected. It's turned a nice pale green. Come down to combine again. And then you'll see you have 2 options now. You can undo Unite or you can merge layers. If you merge the layers, I'll show you that now. It basically does a weld. So it does come up and say it's merged, but it looks exactly the same as it would as a weld result. And again, it's something that you can't undo unless you do it instantly. So make sure that your project is exactly how you want it to be before you merge. The other option that we had was to undo Unite. Let's do that. And now all our layers are back to how they were, all individual. We can click off that and move them around again. They're not welded or united at the top, and we can do whatever we like to these layers. So that is Unite. The next function we're going to look at then is called Subtract, and what Cricut say this does is it removes shapes from the bottom layer of any selected group of objects. Unlike Slice, you can subtract multiple objects at once. So this is a really useful feature, and I've used this a few times actually so far for slicing in a much simpler fashion. So if we wanted to slice this originally, what we would have to have done would have been to go in and change the colour of our star and our border to be the same colour. We would have had to have welded them together to make them into one layer, and then we would have had to have gone into slice and then taken everything away. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. If I change the colour of my border here to the yellow, and then I'm going to select my star and my frame, I'll come down to the bottom, I'm going to weld it. Now I've got 2 layers on my screen, eventually when weld works. There we go, so I have 2 layers on my screen. Now I need to select all, and I need to click on slice. Slice acts like a cookie cutter, so the blue is basically going to be my cookie, and I'm cutting out using slice the yellow portion. So I now need to pull this out, I need to pull this out, and then I need to delete both of those portions, which it takes a long time and it can be quite annoying. So let me just undo everything on my screen. Again, slice is one of those functions that isn't undoable, so it's something that, again, you need to do if you're certain that that's how you want it to be. So now what I've got is 2 different items on the screen. So I've got my frame and I've got this star. If I click on the star, you can see that's a separate piece as well. So what I'm going to do is select all, come down the bottom here to combine again, click on subtract. It takes a couple of seconds to work, and what that's done is subtracted the star and my border and taking it away from that purple circle. You can see they're still there in the layers panel, so I can click on them and still select them, but if I just click off it, it's taken them away, which is really handy. I haven't got to delete any items like I do with slice, and it's just basically ready to go. So that is subtract. The next feature we're going to take a look at then is intersect, and Cricut says that this gives us a new cut shape consisting of only overlapping parts of 2 or more shapes. So if we grab a couple of shapes off here, let's get the circle and let's get another, what should we have? Let's have this one. Okay, so if we select these 2 items, I'm going to change the colour of that to this burgundy colour so you can see it a bit better. All right then, so what's going to happen now, I'm going to pop my 2 shapes over one another. So I've got the hexagon over the top of the circle. So the only bit that's going to be left is the overlapping area. So if I select everything there, come down to combine, I'm going to click on intersect. If you actually look at that little icon there, it does show you what's going to happen with this. Let's click on it. There we go, and that is exactly what we expected to happen. Let me just undo it, and I'm going to duplicate my shape just so that you can see what it looks like before and what it looks like after. Okay, so the only piece that is left is this portion that is underneath there, okay, and it's going to be the bottom layer, so the overlapping area. I don't actually really know when I'd use this function, but I guess it's useful at some point. But it is one of those things that I think you're going to have to play with to figure out what it does and what you want it to do and whether it works for yourself. The last function that has become available is Exclude, and this is basically the opposite of intersect. So what it does, according to Cricut, gives us a new cut shape consisting of only the non-overlapping parts of 2 or more shapes. So let's grab some more shapes again. Let's go for the rounded square, and let's go for a star this time. So if we bring them down, so all that's going to be left are the non-overlapping areas with this one. So if I just select that again, come down to combine, click on Exclude. There we go, that's perfect. So now you can see again in the layers panel, I've got that excluded star. This one would actually be quite useful, I think. But again, it is something that you're going to have to play with and see whether it suits you and what you're doing. But it could be useful for making things like the pop-up place cards and things like that, because sometimes you want to take that piece out and be able to fold that down. So that would actually be quite useful. If you need any more information about all the new features that we've spoken about in today's video, you can always hop over to Cricut's website and their help section. If you just type in combine into this search box at the top, it'll bring up all of this information and give you examples of what each one of the new features does. But the best way really for you to work out how to use the new features is just to play with them. You can't break it, so just play with them, see how it works for you, see how you think you'll use each one of the features, and definitely try out some new projects with them as well. If you've got any questions or you'd like me to help you further, don't forget to drop those comments and questions down below for me. I will do my best to answer you as quickly as I can, and I love helping you with any queries that you might have. I do always use the latest version of Design Space, so don't forget that some of my videos might be outdated a little bit now, or they might look a little bit different to how you're expecting things to look on the screen once your Design Space has updated. But if you need any help again with that, don't forget to ask, I don't mind. The last thing to say then is thanks so much for watching. I'm really pleased to have you with me, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Take care, bye.